afternoon and welcome to Nigeria Now on Echo Television, where we keep you up to date of what is happening presently in the country. Remember, you can be part of the conversation by joining us via Facebook. Drop your comment and your view on any of the matters we will be discussing this afternoon. I am Sela Elisha Dasho, and I'll be doing the program together with Rachel Tanzi. Good afternoon,
Afternoon,
Rachel. How you
Sarah.
doing?
I'm fine. How about
I'm
you?
great, thank you so much. So we have a number of issues we will love to discuss, and we will start with that of the night of the Delta, where we remember that earlier this year there was a little spike where about 11 of our military men were being killed. Talking about 3 or 4 senior and then together with other junior soldiers were being killed because of maybe a conflict between two communities. And then recently they have been back and forth concerning that, where we saw that the resident had to flee the community. Some of them were living in the forest because they claim or allege that some of them, their houses have been burned and then they are under siege. And we're seeing that finally the soldiers have actually evacuated, or they have pulled out of Okwama community. And then we're seeing that the government of that state, Richard, is saying that they can return back now, begin procession, rebuilding their homes. And the question that came to my mind, Richard, is who is going to give these people all that they need to start
Exactly.
rebuilding?
Yes.
Because if we recall, I remember when we started discussing the story of when this military came in and then the chaos, and then they were like some of them were being slain. And I remember when we were saying the burial of our fallen soldiers, and I remember you saying that.
Yes, Sarah.
It's kind of heavy to say fallen soldiers because we know that our army take pride in dying during service. But this is like a land dispute, and we expect that. This is a civilian case,
It
so
is.
we should be having the police dealing with this and not top rank military men.
Mhm.
But then it's quite unfortunate that we lost our men during that, due to, I believe that the army have taken their lessons from this, and they will not be having our military men getting involved in things that should be for civilians. But here we're seeing that they have pulled out from that community, and then the governor of the state was really happy, and he have applauded the president for that move coming from him, telling the military to pull out. And Rachel, when I saw that they have pulled out of that community, I remember that we're still having communities not in other parts of the country presently that are going through the same attack, whereby there is a need for the military men to pull out of that community because it seems as if their presence there is causing more harm than good over there. And now we're seeing that they're saying they can go back and start rebuilding their homes. If the army said initially that they did not do anything with any home initially, which homes are we talking about rebuilding?
Exactly.
So these are questions that Nigerians will be asking. We know that our military are supposed to be there to protect, and it's only when there's a need for that, such as maybe we have the issue of terrorists invading, kidnapping that is beyond the police, then we see our military men stepping in. But well, I'm happy that they pulled out, but right now I'm just concerned about the people of that community, how they have to start going there, making sure that everything, possibly if it their farmlands or whatever their way of life that was interrupted, they have to start working towards that as well. But then we'll just see how things unfold in that community eventually, Rachel.
We saw houses being razed down by fire, and for sure it wasn't this community that put their houses on fire. It was definitely the military. And then secondly, Sarah, up till now, no clear and directly for sure, while top-ranking officers and others go to separate a land dispute unarmed and happen to be killed that way. Up till now, the military is not giving the details of what the soldiers were doing there in the first place and how certain things led to one thing or another and to the death of our military personnel. Nothing for sure. And then the question is, we saw weeks later arrest of certain people. What is the update of their arrest? We saw professors being arrested and all of that, and you wonder, if it was a land dispute by two communities, are we not supposed to be seeing more of family members and all of that, people related, because it's a land dispute, it's owned by certain people and all of that? Why are we seeing unrelated people being dragged into this? And then thirdly or fourthly, you have been there for what? This is not a terrorist attack. It wasn't a peacekeeping mission, exactly. And you didn't go to rescue these people from, let's say, the Niger Delta militants or any insurgency there. What have you been doing there? Letting these people leave their home, live in the bushes, and what were you doing there exactly and precisely? Because we didn't get any information, and still yet you are living, you're just pulling out, you're living based on what? If you had a reason for staying, then it means your staying purpose was accomplished, and that was why you're leaving. And so we need answers to, have you gotten your answers to why you're leaving, or why are you just leaving? Or did you just decide to frustrate these people? It's a reprisal. And I know that the army will not agree to this term, but that is what it is. It's a reprisal, firing back at civilians, unarmed civilians, for that matter. Because you didn't go after the people. You still don't know them, obviously. Those people were just suspects. But up to now, we don't know for sure who they are, just suspect, and they remain suspect until proven guilty. So you just went out, or you just went after unarmed civilians. You put them under siege for a long period of time because you have the power to do that, which is very wrong. It's nothing more but appraisal. The army cannot call it any other thing. You're pulling out. Why were you there? And if you're pulling out, it means you've gotten answers. Nigerians need updates to what kind of operation you carried out. From the beginning to the end of what happened there, nothing is being clear. And you can't just help but wonder, is this the Nigerian military that we have and we are dealing with? It's not a nice thing to hear from some, because we need more. At the time where we are in this country, we need better. We just need to know that we're heading somewhere. We need to know that, you know what, our military is reliable. We need to know that civilians will not just be put to ransom for a mistake that is not theirs and all of that. It just makes it look like now, say, like anything should just go wrong in your community, for instance, and it involves a military personnel, innocent people, unarmed civilians will pay for it and will suffer. This is what happened in Okwama means for every other Nigerian. And then you wonder, are we even safe? Are we even safe? If something like that could happen to innocent people, what talk more of you? We've had that case. We've had that situation on the plateau where a dead military personnel was found buried and all of, and that whole community had to run and leave because everybody was threatened. We've had that situation on the plateau. It wasn't as bad as what took place in this Niger Delta community, but we've had that, and it just, I mean, it looks like it's a pattern from our military. And I just hope they up their game and stop this kind of thing, because you're not supposed to be dealing with civilians, not in a manner like this, not in an appraisal manner. It's unheard of, and it says a lot about you, and the lot it says about you is your competency, and it says what we are dealing with, and is not acceptable on any level whatsoever.
You know, Rachel, while you're just talking, I just couldn't help but wrap my head. I mean, we're still yet to get exactly how our army men were killed, the military. As in, I'm just trying to understand. A soldier is a nobody. He's an ordinary man without his gun.
Exactly.
So at every point in time, it is very difficult for you to find a soldier, Rachel, without his ammunition right on him, because he knows that at any point in time danger is inevitable. So he have to be alert, extremely alert. Now this is where we will say this was a point of no return, because the people of Okwama were pushed, and that was why they were living in the forest. Now you made mention of, we had that scenario even in Plateau State. Not long, just last year, we had where it was circulating on social media here in Mango local government area, where people were shouting that military or uniform men were shooting at them. Yeah. Those people cannot be lying, because it was a live video running and showing. Of course, Rachel, we saw that happening. How about, let's even take a look at our hashtag EndSARS.
Exactly.
Till today, we are yet to get unarmed civilians. We're shot at. Yeah. And we saw just last year was where we saw the mass burial.
burial, and the government still trying to deny it and
So
cover
what
it
are
up.
we not seeing, Rachel?
Yes.
So just like you said, we are hoping that this will not become a pattern, a way of life for uniform men, that you feel that innocent men will have to pay for the sins of few people. You are intelligent. That's why we say make good use of the digital that we have. The digital space is there. The AI, make good use of it. We saw what happened where people were killed in Kaduna. They said they were confusing them for. So imagine if civilians were to confuse our military men for what would have been. So I'm hoping that
Yes.
we are more intelligent than this. Let us do our findings carefully. And the people who are supposed to be there, do not work where it's not your jurisdiction. The army had no power. They don't even have anything to concern themselves with land dispute. If we say it's two families, let us have, we're yet to even know who are the two families. Names.
Yeah.
Don't they have identity? Let us have the identity of those people. Well, we hope to see our military doing much better. Now we're seeing that the federal government have commenced new auditing again of the about 2.7 or 2.8 trillion naira subsidy claim. Remember, after the removal of the first subsidy, there were claims that the federal government was meant to remit money to the NNPCL for the subsidy. And that was, I think, that gave birth to the reason why the federal government had to stop paying, because it is taking so much. And then it's taking a toll on the federal government, taking a toll on our economy, and therefore the federal government had to remove the fuel subsidy, so Nigerians have to start paying for it. Now we're seeing that the NNPC said that, even though they have paid off that money, but the federal government is yet to remit the money to them. And right now, federal government are saying that, you know what, we need to audit this claim coming from the NNPCL, because we really do not understand what it is. This was supposed to start since March during one of their FEC meeting, but then we're seeing that the federal government said, you know what, we're going to start a fresh auditing, and this will involve the Auditor General of the Federation, even external auditors, because we really need to know exactly the claim of this money, if really this is the money we are owing NNPCL. And I think, Rachel, beyond that, the federal government should also check so far the money that was supposed to be paid for subsidy, what is being done. Remember, initially we're being given update, this is how much have been recovered, but we're yet to hear how much so far. From the last time, since last year, I don't think we've heard. We don't even know how much the federal government have been able to save from fuel subsidy. But then here it is, the new auditing concerning the money and the claim coming from the NNPCL concerning this particular amount of money.
Marcella, if you've gone back through this story, like of the back and forth and all of it, there was that claim clearly. However, there was never when the federal government paid to the NNPCL, because it's exactly as you said it in the past, where the NNPCL have paid. Now waiting for the government to remit to them is almost like a backlog of debt. It's like the NNPCL helping the government clear their debt. In turn, when the government gets it, they come and give it back to NNPCL. That was what it was exactly at that time. However, there was no update to if the federal government have paid that money to the NNPCL. Now the question, I think the federal government is coming and saying, okay, this is much for us, so we need to audit it because it looks like a big money, and then we have to be sure that we're paying right. But then the question I have is that, are we going to be honest about this audit in the first place? Because we are talking about the government that have taken out fuel subsidy because it was going into the hands of others. Now the question is that if they begin to dig, will they call those people out, Sele? Because for me, that is the big question. That is the absolute big question. Do we have a government that is willing to be transparent? So far, so good. In this angle, with other things moving around, you can't clap for that Tinubu's administration when it comes to finances in the country, because all what they've been doing is juicing us out. Now, this is a question of integrity and digging deep and probing. Because, yes, we remember an NNPCL saying we have paid, but the government needs to give us back. However, we didn't see when the government paid. That wasn't captured anymore. It ended there, it stopped there, and then nothing more said about it. So now if the NNPCL is coming back to say, okay, you haven't given this subsidy because it is a backlog and all of that, are you really going to dig deep and check through and say, okay, you know what, even if our findings mean a lot of people will be indicted for this fuel subsidy removal, then because automatically, if I keep saying it, the federal government is, as far as I'm concerned, NNPCL. That is because the president is still the is a minister of oil in the country as it is now, and it didn't just start with this administration. It was with the past administration. So precisely, if NNPCL said they have paid subsidy and now the government needs to pay them, is contradicting on a lot of level, because NNPCL is still the government. So how does the government need to remit back to you a backlog of subsidy? It's contradicting on a lot of level. And then when you look at it, it doesn't make sense. On another level, it makes sense because the NNPC is a company, limited company, even if it's been owned by the Nigerian government. So it's a company that has to function as a company. Exactly, it has to function as a company because there is purchasing and selling done within the NNPCL. Everything is not within the country. So even when they sell crude oil, they have to buy it back. So it is a company. It does make sense. At the same time, it's still the government of Nigeria that decides what happens in NNPCL. So when you look at it, the government needs to call for probing at the other side, because on one side, it makes sense. On another side, it doesn't make sense. So, but when they do the digging, I hope they come out with the finding, because all I see is a pattern of sweeping things down the carpet and just letting it be. Because why haven't it been clear? I see it as a backlog from the federal government to the NNPCL. This should have been done since. And then, why are we saving subsidy if what we have saved so far cannot clear a backlog? What are we doing with the money? Do you understand what I'm saying, Sele? If you went into debt because of using a certain product and you stopped using it and you're saving from not using it, why isn't that saving automatically clearing that for us to start on a clean slate? I don't know if the government complicates our finances or payment or methods and all of that to get away with certain things, but I've never been in the government. I might not understand the deep runnings of certain things, but if you have a backlog and you are saving, it's important for you to grow, to be debt-free in certain area, then before we can be able to forge ahead. For me, that's simple and basic finance, and it can be applicable on any level, be it at the bigger level, NNPCL with the federal government or anyhow, because we are yet to see or hear, just as you said, Sele, how far have we gone? How much trillions do we have now saved? And is it not enough to clear a debt backlog for us to be able to move on now and say this is where we are? Or what are we saying? What is the money being used that we are saving from subsidy? What is it being used for at the moment?
You know, Rachel, while you were talking, I just couldn't help but remember when the president was saying that he needed to make this decision during the World Economic Forum. You remember what he said about how the economy is, how our youth can bear pain and all of that. And just like I'm acting, and I just hope that we will get the right answers, because just like you said, it's becoming a habit where we see government pushing certain sensitive information under the carpet.
Yes.
There are certain sectors that have not been audited for years, Rachel. And you wonder what exactly is happening. And we hope, just like you said, that we'll have a government that's transparent. We need accountability in every level, because everybody's supposed to benefit from this.
Yeah.
But we're seeing that right now there's even fuel scarcity, or we're seeing the hike in price. Let's not even go to the different levels that federal government are trying to add up again to the pain that we're having present. So if this is a claim coming from the NNPC, which you said, I mean, we saw the back and forth the last year or beginning of this year, whether NNPC is becoming a private sector or not.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be for the federal government, but it seems as if right now there are certain remittances that are supposed to be made to the CBN, and then all of this. So just like it's, are we trying to complicate our finances, or we just want to be so complicated that we don't even want Nigerians to ask certain questions? But let's just see how this whole thing unfolds, and we just hope that with this, with the federal government bringing in external auditors, maybe we will now have a transparent and also an accountable government that will tell us, you know what, we have paid or we have not paid, and this is how much we have been able to save from fuel subsidies so far. So good. So right now, Rachel, I think we'll just wait for our government to give us the right answers eventually. Thank you so much.
You're
for
welcome,
with me. And also, thank you to our viewers for keeping this date with us again on Nigeria Now. We look forward again to talking with you again tomorrow. Do have a great day.